Well, today's Sunday. I had an interesting experience in the morning because I decided to go for that for the wild it's called wild drive. Basically right next to me there's a big park. See the green area? It's called Rocky Mountain Arsenal National Wildlife Refuge. And the cool thing about that is that on Google, if you increase the screen, it says Wildlife Drive at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, and there's a pin. And so you click on that because it's hard to know, right? Like I never been here before. By the way, found Starbucks 2 minutes away from my hotel. Like very modern, huge inside, but I didn't want to sit inside. I feel tired. I got up like, even though I'm on mountain time now, right? But I wanted to be at that park at sunrise, and I checked the sunrise time on Google. It said 5:40 a.m. so 20 minutes to 6 mountain time, which is actually 7:40 my time. But I've been here. I was on Central Time for a long time, right after I crossed into Iowa, and now Mountain Time. And somehow, I left the hotel. I think it was what was it? Oh, I set my alarm for 4:30, which is 6:30 for me, but it felt so early. There's a 7-Eleven around the corner. I went there, grabbed the coffee, and I remembered that I don't have. I have these in my truck, but I didn't want to drive back to the truck, so I saw they have these on sale. For sale, actually. They're pretty expensive, but this one is good because it has this USB-C, you know, and this bigger one. And you can never have enough of these, so I bought this so I can charge my phone, my iPhone here. And then I just did this. Directions to Wildlife Drive at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. And it's basically northeast part of Denver. I don't know if my screen is too shiny over there, but just west of the airport and west for me. And north between I-76, southeast of I-76, north of I-70. And by the way, I-70 here, it's awful in downtown there. It's all construction, slow speeds. I don't want to go back there. And so yeah, I arrived there at this particular spot, and turns out that's the gate. That's the gate to the park, because everything was open. And I'm driving among some fields, and I'm thinking, wait a second, how can I be a refuge with no fencing, right? Then animals would just roam the streets of Denver. But turns out there is fencing in there, and I was second in line. There was a pickup truck ahead of me, and the guy stopped because the gate was closed, and I could see the sign. The sign says refuge hours, sunrise to sunset. And I look at my clock, it was 5:15 or 5:20. So and it's still dark, you know. And I saw a rabbit, a small tiny rabbit, ran under the gate. And so we had to sit there, and then 2 more cars arrived after me. No, pickup trucks. And then finally at 5:40 pretty much exactly, the gate, and it's automatic gate. I thought somebody would come from the central building there. It looked like it's a office building or security building or something in there. No, they opened it remotely, so it started sliding, and then we just we just you just follow the signs. There's little baby signs that say wildlife drive, and it tells you where to go. Because if you increase the map there on Google Maps, there's a bunch of roads, and I was wondering, like, where do I go, you know? But there's a route kind of like predetermined, and half of it is one way, you know, like, and then you enter a bunch of fences, and it says you're entering bison area, please do not leave your vehicle. You know, bisons are unpredictable, and so the speed limit there, so you basically, you stay in your car, and it's about probably like 12 miles, you know. You go half, it's a two-way road, and then there's a sign says one-way road begins. Basically, if you want, you can turn around, go back, and they said this will one-way last for like 8 miles, and it might take up to an hour depending on I'm guessing conditions and animals in there. So basically, be warned, you know, you don't want to go there because you won't be able to turn around, right? So you have to, and it goes like in a semicircle. So it's like the whole thing, it was very well, you know, thought through. It's, you do a big circle, and then at some point you jump back on the two-way road, and it takes you right back. It says exit, you know, so it's, everything is very well marked. And I saw a deer, and there's parking everywhere. There's parking, there's some observation platforms, you know, like very cool. And you can just stop on the side of the road. There's like, you can see where people stop, you know, if you see something interesting. So I saw deer, I saw bison, a bunch of deer actually, yeah. I didn't see any big birds. I was hoping for some eagles or something. But the challenge was get sharp images, you know, and I was struggling with this big lens, and I switched to my 135mm because they're right there, you know, like you don't need a huge lens, because these animals, they my best shots were, as you'll see in the end of this video, the best shots were of, I just would, you know, stop the car, lower the window, and they were right there on the side of the road. There was a fence, and they were just lying near the fence, a bunch of them, like a group of groups of 3 or 2, and they're looking at me, you know. And I saw some very young ones with their horns just starting to grow, and then I saw some bigger ones. So I don't know if they were deer, maybe they were antelope, but I think they were deer. But lots of them. So that's the and then bisons were very far. And then I did see one close behind the fence, and it looked at me like a huge, you know, head is like this size. But I couldn't take a picture because there was like a little valley in there, and I didn't want to shoot through the fence. The fence was in the way, you know. But these other deer, they were right there, right on the road. And one was near a lake. So it was a pretty cool experience, and it's a huge area, huge, you know. You drive there, there's nobody around, you can stop, but there's signs, you know. Once you enter that one-way part, there's signs everywhere, so, you know, stay in your vehicle, and then you just follow the signs for the, it's pretty, like I said, it's pretty much like a huge circle that you do inside this refuge. So, like I said, I took a bunch of shots. Using my 500mm and 135mm lens, and my Nikon D850. And some of them were good, but most of them were not sharp, and I'll tell you why in a second. So here's some first shots, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get them as sharp as I wanted. So this was shot with a 500mm. I opened the window, this thing was sitting, but it was pretty far, And then once I uploaded these to the computer, I saw that the ISO was about 20,000. 20,000, and I didn't use any high ISO, features on the camera. So here I switched to 135 Sigma, and things became better. So this thing was eating something in the grass. And 135 was perfect because these things were so close to the car. 500 is definitely an overkill. Maybe 300 would be okay, but 500 is too much. So it's the same deer. It found something in the grass. And then there was a bunch of these guys on the right, and I went vertical. I cut off its legs a little bit, so then I recomposed. So over here it looks much better, but ISO is still like 10,000. Way too high, because I wasn't paying attention, and of course that affects sharpness and grain. But these things, they're not too afraid. See, it was moving its ears when she heard my camera clicking. This guy was standing in the grass on my left, and then you can see mountains from everywhere over there. So this, you see the top of the mountain, the sun was just rising. It was beautiful. And then the last group of deer, these guys were just sitting near the fence, posing for me, just basically, I don't know, 3 meters, 10 feet away from the car. And I stopped the engine so that I didn't want to spook them. And this was still with the Sigma 135, but definitely next time I'm gonna bring a monopod and watch my ISO. Don't let it get so high. So thanks for watching.